They have $2 million and they want to retire at 45. Can they do it? This case study is going to be a little bit different. They want to FIRE. They want to reach financial independence and retire early. This case study is going to be a bit unique because even though it's a retirement planning case study, it's for a couple in their mid-40s. They want to retire early. They've got good savings and investments, they have very reasonable spending, and they have a paid off home. The question is, can they retire at 45? Can they do it? Will they run out of money in the future? And how does their retirement plan need to be different from a more traditional retirement plan? Even if you don't want to retire extremely early, like age 45, if you just want to retire a little bit early, like maybe 50, 55, or 60, these factors are going to affect your plan as well. In this video, we're going to highlight the 5 different ways that early retirement planning can be different from more traditional retirement planning, and then we're going to build that retirement case study together. If you're not familiar, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Although there's lots of variations of FIRE, the general idea is that if you can lower your expenses, increase your savings rate, and accumulate enough assets, then you can reach financial independence and retire early. Now, how early depends on your savings rate. If you can decrease your expenses and increase your savings rate, you could retire as early as 25 or 30. But typically when we work with FIRE clients, it's in the range of 40 to 50, still earlier than your typical early retirement. But with those early retirement dates come some additional considerations. This is 5, 10, 15, 20 years earlier than your traditional retirement plan. And so there's some additional factors that we need to keep in mind. The first factor, and one of the biggest, is there's just a lot more variability when it comes to an early retirement plan. When we think about retirement, a traditional retirement of 30 years, what the Trinity study, what the 4% rule was based off of, when we think about early retirement, we're adding maybe 10, 15, 20 years to that retirement period. And so the variability in retirement ends up having a huge impact. In the case study that we're going to build together, we're going to start at age 45. We're going to project until age 94. That's almost a 50-year retirement period. And so fluctuations in early retirement have a huge impact later on in retirement because of that long retirement period. So more variability is going to be a big problem when we look at the case study. The other important factor is we have less CPP benefits. One of the big things with FIRE is that we're retiring early, and if we retire early, we just have a smaller CPP benefit. We haven't made as many contributions to the Canada Pension Plan. We get less credits. Canada Pension Plan, old age security, it's the bedrock of every retirement plan in Canada. And if we think about a FIRE plan, a financial independence retire early plan, we just have less of those CPP benefits. We have less credits and we have less payments in the future. This is a big consideration because CPP is great for managing investment risk, longevity risk, as well as inflation rate risk. So we're losing some of that protection a more traditional retirement plan would have. The third big consideration is tax planning. One of the challenges in a FIRE plan is that we have less tax planning opportunities. A more traditional retirement plan, we could maybe split RIF income at the age of 65, but if we're retiring at 45, we don't have that option. So we need to make sure registered assets are quite equal. If we're not using a spousal RSP, we might want to think about it. We might also have a lot of non-registered assets. RSP, TFSA might be maximized, those tax advantaged accounts might be full, we might have a lot of non-registered assets with capital gains and taxable income every year. When you plan for FIRE or early retirement, there's additional tax planning considerations that you want to keep in mind. The fourth consideration is the sensitivity to spending. With such a long retirement period, one of the challenges is that if we're slightly off with retirement spending, that compounds over 50 years. Even a small mistake in estimating retirement spending needs can have a really big impact on such a long retirement plan. So we want to be very sure about how much spending we can support. We want to make sure that we stick to that spending so that we don't run out of money in the future. Now, the fifth consideration is the ability to earn more income. This is one of the big differences between an early retirement plan and a traditional retirement plan. A traditional retirement plan, you retire at 60 or 65, you probably don't want to consider going back to work. That's not really an option that's on the table. You want to enjoy early retirement. But when you're looking at a FIRE plan, an early retirement plan, that needs to be an option to manage sequence of returns risk. It's a key lever that you have within the plan. And so if you retire early, if you reach financial independence, doing a little bit of additional work, especially if you had a bad sequence of returns early in retirement, needs to be a key lever. We're going to see it in the case study. We're going to see how effective that can be. All right, let's build this retirement plan together. So we're going to do this in the advice platform. We're going to go through and use the simple option to build a quick retirement plan for this early retirement example. Let's take a look here as we go through. Goals and values, we don't really need that for a simple plan, so we'll make that simple. Same with risk and investor profile. Good exercises to do if you want to build a detailed retirement plan. Let's go to the income section. Let's click simple here. Pretty easy in this case. We've got Andrew and Alexa, and we don't have any income at the moment. They actually have retired already, and now they want to validate that their plan makes sense. Let's go over to expenses. Let's click simple here again. And what we're aiming for here is $80,000 a year. Remember, they've got about $2 million in investment assets. And so based on the 4% rule, they figure they can spend about $80,000 a year after tax. Is that accurate? That's what we're going to take a look at throughout this case study. So we've got $40,000 a year, $80,000 in total. That's all we need to do if we're in simple mode. No cash flow diagram because we're in simple mode. Let's go to the assets. So we've got about $40,000 in cash. This is about 6 months of their target retirement spending, so that makes sense. No TFSA savings, but we do have a TFSA investment account that's quite sizable. So they each have about $210,000 there. Now we've got an RSP RIF for Andrew with about $290,000. And for Alexa, we've got one with about 70,000, not 700, 70,000. And that's because Alexa has a DCPP defined contribution pension plan with $430,000. In addition to the DCPP, we've also got Andrew, who's got a locked-in retirement account from an old employer worth about $190,000. And typically in early retirement plans, we've got a lot of non-registered assets. This is similar here for Andrew and Alexa. We've got $600,000 spread across each of their non-registered accounts. We also have quite a bit of growth there. So we've got an adjusted cost base, original cost base of $180,000. So we've got quite a lot of capital gains that we want to plan for in the future. So in total, we've got just over $2 million. We've got $2 million in investment assets and 40 grand in cash as their emergency fund. Vehicle value, we're just going to say about $35,000, and their home is paid off and it's worth $900,000. We do have a bit of RSP contribution room. Not sure it's going to be valuable. And we do have some TFSA room we'll probably want to think about using as well. So that's it. That's all we have to enter here. No debts to worry about, so we can flip to simple. Got their net worth. No insurance we need to worry about as well. Tax and benefits. This is one section that we do want to do a detailed estimate for. The reason being, if we go down, we've got our old age security details here. But it's really CPP that we're worried about. So what I've done already is I've added pensionable earnings. Now I've just put in $100,000 a year. They're over the YMPE, the year's maximum pensionable earnings. We've got 20 credits going all the way back. They do have some zero earning years in the beginning, but ideally Andrew and Alexa are filling this out based on their statement of contributions from Service Canada. So they would go download their statement of contributions and enter all of their CPP contributions. This is important in a FIRE plan because they're not going to get the maximum, and their Service Canada estimate assumes they keep working, which they won't. They're retired. It's 45. They're not going to have additional credits towards CPP. So we cannot use the Service Canada estimate in this example. Perfect. Okay, so let's go on to the next section, which is the investment plan. Here we've got 0.25% in fees, and we've got a sort of assertive asset allocation at an 80-20. So we've got 80% in equity stocks, we've got 20% in bonds, fixed income. That gives us an overall return of 5.8%, a fairly good overall return. Now let's flip over to the foundation section. We're just going to take a look at their CPP and OAS estimate. Again, we did do a detailed CPP estimate because this is a FIRE plan. They're retiring early. As we can see, we're nowhere near the maximum CPP at the age of 65. We're quite a bit lower. How much lower depends on your past earnings and contributions, and that's why you need to do that detailed CPP estimate if you're choosing to retire early. Now let's take a look at the projection. So this is the initial projection. Let's take a look and maybe optimize this a bit using the AI strategies first. So we can see that they're starting with non-registered, they're doing some registered withdrawals, flips back to the TFSA here, and then we start registered withdrawals at age 72. Part of the reason for this is the platform defaults to age 71 for that Lira to LIF conversion. So we can't make those withdrawals until we convert the DC pension plan, the defined contribution pension plan, and the Lira to a life income fund. So let's take a look at the AI strategies. It's probably going to be one of the first things that pops up. We're going to hide these ones. We're going to come back to them later. And yeah, we can see it. So one of the top strategies here is that we want to do the RIF conversion for the Lira in particular as soon as we can. So remember, Alexa has that really big defined contribution pension plan. It gets converted to a Lira when she leaves her employer at 45, but we can't tap into that until 55. So we're going to do the earliest conversion age that we can on that account. Let's see what that looks like here. So now we're starting to get some better registered withdrawals. We probably need to do the same thing for Andrew. Yep. So we can see that's coming up first here. So we've got an age 60 conversion here for Andrew as well. So let's enable that one. So this is starting to look quite a bit better already. We've got a 75% success rate. Let's see what else we have. It's recommending that we delay CPP until age 70. Interestingly, it has a slightly lower success rate, but let's take a look at what this looks like here. Let's add that to the plan. So here we're going to have more registered withdrawals early. Let's do the same thing for Andrew here. Now we're getting back up to 75% success rate. And let's see what else the platform is showing us. It does want to delay old age security. I never really like that. If you want to take a look at our OAS Breakeven video. It does take a long time to reach OAS Breakeven. So let's hide that one here. And interesting, now it has a slightly earlier RIF conversion age for Andrew. So let's do age 56 there for Andrew as well. If you want to build your own early retirement plan, go to advice.ca, click the Start Planning button. You can get access to the software platform, the AI strategies for just $9 a month or $49 for the year. It's an incredible value. Not only do you get access to the software platform, the AI strategies, but you also get access to our community forum for support, and we do bi-monthly webinars looking at best practices, retirement planning case studies, or just open office hours where you can ask questions. If you don't have a retirement plan started, we'd highly encourage you to get one. Go to advice.ca, get one started for just $9 a month or $49 for the year. So now that we've used the AI strategies to maybe improve their income and drawdown plan, let's explore the rest of the plan a little bit. Let's rename this first. Let's call it the FIRE plan here. And so this is the base plan. We've got their income. Again, we've got non-registered, registered, and then we're doing a mix of registered and TFSA towards the end. Overall spending, we've got $80,000 a year all the way through. From a net worth perspective, we are drawing down here until CPP and OAS begins. So remember, we delayed CPP until age 70. At that point, we actually see assets start to increase a little bit. The success rate overall, 73%. There's definitely some chance of running out of money by age 70. Again, that's already 25 years into the future. So there's certainly a bit of a risk here because of how long this retirement period is. So let's explore what they need to do to increase that success rate. Let's make a copy of this scenario. And let's take a look at what their spending would need to be to make that plan more successful. Again, this is a long retirement period, so 73% chance of success might be a bit risky in this case. So let's rename this and call it FIRE minus with less spending. So let's do spending. And let's explore what we need to do to increase this success rate. Luckily, the AI strategies does this for us. Let's go here. We can take a look. So reducing spending even by $12,000 a year gets us to a 94% success rate. So that's certainly one option. We can explore this one. This looks good all the way until age 94, 94% success rate as well. The problem is, on average, they'll end up with a lot of money left over in the end. Remember, the variability within these plans, because there's such a long retirement period, is just enormous. On the 90th percentile, the top cases, we can end up with millions upon millions if all we did was spend $68,000 a year all the way through. So we know this is a good worst case scenario, but definitely they could probably spend more in some cases as well. Now that's one option, but let's also make a copy of this and look at more income instead rather than less spending. So let's change this to more income. And let's see if that's an option. So their original spending was $4 million. In this example, we've reduced it by $12,000 a year for 49 years. So we've got less spending all the way through. So let's see if we, instead of doing less spending, let's get back to that original $4 million of retirement spending. Let's see if we can increase the success rate by adding some income in an early retirement. Let's go until the age of 54. Let's go maybe to a more traditional retirement of 55. How much additional spending income do we need to add? Well, we had spending reduction of $600,000. So what do we need to add for income? Probably not $600,000 in income because it's going to be front loaded. So let's take a look. Let's add some additional income to the plan. Let's go here to employment income. Let's say $20,000 for 10 years. So from 45 until 54, increasing by inflation. Let's do the same thing for Alexa. So 10 years at 20,000 each means about 400,000 in today's dollars of additional income. So not quite the same 600,000 that we reduced spending by, but let's see if this also increases their success rate. So adding more income is certainly going to be an option here because it does increase their success rate to 90%. So not quite the 94, but certainly a lot better than it was, that 73%. So this could be an option for Andrew and Alexa. It could be an option if they have some really bad sequence of returns early in retirement. If they have their portfolio drop from $2 million down to $1 million or so, they may want to think about adding some additional income, $20,000 a year each for about 10 years. But this is the scale of the Great Depression, high inflation of the 1970s. So fairly extreme example in this case. From a FIRE perspective, can they spend $80,000 a year in retirement? Well, about 73% of the time they can definitely do that. They've got their $2 million or so in financial assets at retirement. They'll draw that down. By the time they get to CPP and old age security, they've got some additional income that will help carry them through for the rest of retirement. Let's compare these scenarios. Let's go to the compare page and see what these three look like together. So from a FIRE perspective, definitely an option here. They've got a lot of assets. They could possibly spend more in the future. If they need to, they might need to reduce spending. This is to increase the success rate of the plan, but they could also look at adding more income as well. So that might help them if they face that early retirement sequence of returns risk. If we go back to the table down here, we can see that from a less spending perspective, it does cost them about $600,000 in retirement spending over the course of retirement. If they increase their income, they can maintain their spending and have a similar success rate. So this is where having some income flexibility can be super important in a FIRE plan and early retirement plan. Overall, a very successful plan, spending $80,000 a year from the age of 45. If you've got $2 million in investment assets, certainly seems like it could be possible as long as you've got a bit of flexibility within your decumulation plan. As you can see, financial independence, retire early, has different considerations. When you're building a FIRE plan, there are different things that you want to look at within your retirement plan, maybe different than a traditional retirement plan. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love it if you like and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.